Welcome everybody.
We're happy so many came of you here today to Harvard because you'll discover how to increase your emotional intelligence with body language, just like these people did in just 4 hours' time.
And body language was also important for us as a couple and a marriage because we met on a business meeting.
A very effective business meeting.
And Patryk told me that he is a body language expert. So I asked him, all right, so analyze my body language. And what did you say?
I need to go to the bathroom.
And why was that?
I think I was more interested in your body than your body language.
So, as you see, body language is important.
So, if you would like to build a compassionate world, if you would like to save time with your customers, if you would like to spark positive change, you need emotional intelligence, right? And there are 3 elements to be able to increase your emotional intelligence. And the first one is to learn to accurately interpret the body language code of somebody.
And body language is the first language that we learn as babies. Newborn babies can distinguish between facial expressions of the father and mother. And also children, they can manipulate with body language. This cute child can show micro-expression of sadness on purpose because he wants more cookies.
Speaking about babies, this is me when I was small and I was already fencing, just like my father. And in fencing, you have to look at people's body language to predict their movements, right? So I learned on early age to interpret nonverbal communication. Also, I had a hearing disorder, so I had to look at people's body language to be able to connect with them. And as you see, it worked out well.
Yes. And when I was a small girl, I loved to play with my aunt. She was a very creative person, but in the same time she had schizophrenia. And I remember once I went to the street and I was singing there. And people liked my singing, they smiled at me. But when my aunt also went to sing on the street, they rejected her. They didn't like it. And this was the first moment in my life when I realized that there was a difference between me and others, and not everything is allowed. And also on the body language level, there is a body language for certain professions. And there are different things that we can do or we cannot do. And this is how my quest for authenticity started. I wanted to know more what people really think and feel.
And you wanted actually to heal your aunt. That's why Kasia became a master in psychology and sociology and also in law for to pleasure your father. And part of her doctorate is how to apply micro-expressions, the little tiny movements on the face, to business situations. That's also why Fox asked us, can you predict the outcome of the US elections based on facial expressions? And we said, yes, we can. Let's have a look.
The countdown to Election Day, but I know it's hard to believe, only 5 days left right now. And a new study shows that who you vote for could be determined just by the way you smile, stare, or even squint your eyes. The study shows why the election is almost a tie. President Barack Obama has a slight advantage over Romney. Here to explain it is Patryk Wezowski, the founder of the Center for Body Language, and you're joining us from Belgium right now. I know you got a chance to see 2 of our employees, and
This was pretty exciting because it was live on TV and we didn't know the answers. Pretty risky.
On Skype.
Yeah. So now it's the task for you. You will see Ben watching a video of Obama and Romney, and can you know who he's going to vote for based on his facial expressions?
You can choose leadership that has been tested and proven. 4 years ago, I promised to end the war in Iraq. We did.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans and to heal the planet. My promise is to help you and your family.
But when Governor
So who thinks Ben is going to vote for Obama? Raise your hand. Who thinks that Ben is going to vote for Romney? Raise your hand. Who thinks that Ben is an independent voter? You can change your mind if you want. All right, very good. So before we give you the answer, who of you has to deal sometimes with difficult clients? Those who don't raise their hand, those are the difficult clients probably. Now, this is how you can recognize a difficult client. One of the lip corners raises higher than the other. This is a feeling of contempt, of superiority. And you see Ben doing this when he sees Obama, so his body language code is negative. He's not going to vote for Obama. When Ben sees Romney, the same happens. One of his lip corners raises as well. So body language code, negative, he's not going to vote for Romney. Let's have a look. What's the right answer?
Ben is actually an undecided voter. So you're absolutely right.
And let's have a look how you could see that. The video is playing again without sound. What he does with his jaw here, it's not a good sign. And then one of the lip corners raising slightly and more here. He's not going to vote for Obama. With Romney, he laughs. That might confuse you a bit, but it's a sarcastic laugh with his closed eyes. So it's negative. And then again, contempt. This is how you can recognize superiority and difficult clients.
And this small study that we did right now, we multiplied on 300 people who were watching videos of Obama and Romney. And here this peak that you see is when people were watching video of Romney for the first time. And you see that there's more disgust and anger on their faces. And what is interesting, that it was independently whether they were Republicans or Democrats. And this is the power of microexpressions. For example, with microexpression of disgust, you can see this microexpression in the same way on the face of Obama and on the face of a cat.
So those tiny movements are the most reliable signs for truly felt emotions. And that's why the body language code can predict your failure or success, not only in elections, but also in business.
And microexpressions are universal. In all cultures, we show them in the same way. And this is because Charles Darwin was the first person to investigate the concept of emotions on the face. And it was confirmed in the research on blind people from birth that were also showing emotions in the same way. So this is kind of imprinting that we have in our brain.
The definition, how we define microexpressions, these are movements of the facial muscles that are half a second or shorter. And those tiny movements, they make the biggest difference because this is how our brain works. Probably you know that we have a reptile brain, on top of that an emotional brain, and on top of that our most slowest and rational brain. And the microexpressions are subconscious movements controlled by our reptile and emotional brain. So you cannot control it. It comes out anyway.
If you imagine for a moment that you are walking through a jungle and you see something that looks like a snake, what are you going to do? You are probably going to jump away. And you are not going to stare at the snake and thinking, is it a snake or maybe a stick? No, this is how evolution works. And the same you can apply to business, that, for example, thinking leads to conclusions, but emotions lead to actions.
And actually, many people going into a business meeting blindfolded. They're missing the most important information, which is given you right on the face of your potential client. And you can test yourself how good you are today on microexpressionstest.com, and you will see a video playing on the left side, and on the right side you will be able to choose which of the 7 basic emotions you saw on that face. We test a lot of people. In 2012 we tested more than 3,000 people online, their average 24%. Congratulations for you here, because 35 people at this conference at Harvard did this test, and you scored 10% more, 27%, so great. Don't worry if your score is quite low, you can learn it quickly. After some basic training of 1 hour, 2 hours, people score around 80%, and people who completed the training 4 hours, 12 hours, they score around 90%. Let's have a look how this influences emotional intelligence. We measured the emotional intelligence with MSC, the most hardest and toughest and resilient EQ test there is. And Michelle, she felt like she was developing a 6th sense, and her EQ raised with 3 points.
And Ben, for him, it was a great way to practice feeling the emotion of others. And his EQ at the beginning was only 97. And after practicing with MeTV, he achieved EQ of 109.
Every single person who does this training increases their emotional intelligence between 3 to 20%. This is Sarah from Netherlands. She gained more confidence when having to negotiate. Her EQ increased with 20 points.
And also we did another research with children. And it was also great that children had better score than their parents. For example, here you see Miron that has a score of 58% and Patricia only 35%. Or Lynn had 43% and Hudele 39%. So children are better because this is our first language.
And I'm wondering what happens on the way? How do those children, how do we lose this capacity? What happens? What's wrong with our education? How can we change that? How can we spark positive change so they stay spontaneous leaders?
And actually, also children are more communicative. Before they go to school, they show over 400 body language gestures. But when they finish school, they show only 100 gestures. And they focus on words, not on body language.
The ones that don't lose their ability to recognize those facial expressions, micro-expressions, they are the most successful salespeople. They are the best in negotiating. They are body language experts, and the other way around. Of course, we measured it. And in Carnegie, a company in Italy, 83 people participated. We found out that salespeople who score above the average on our micro-expressions test, we can measure their sales potential in just 2 minutes, they sell more units than the ones that score worse.
And in BMW, also salespeople that were selling less than 60 cars, they had only around 14% on MeTV. And salespeople who were selling more than 60 products, 60 cars, they had doubled their result. They had around 28%.
MeTV is a micro-expression training videos program. GTS, Slovakia, same story again. This is a telecommunication company. People who score well on recognizing emotions, they generate more net sales. Also, the most impressive results we had at an international pharmaceutical company. Company name is confidential, but the top salespeople, they scored 10 times higher on emotional recognition than the lower end salespeople. So to sell more, you can watch the body language code of somebody. There is also a second element that you need for emotional intelligence, which is mindset. It's good to see the outside, but what's more important is the inside. And we see body language like a stethoscope. If you go to the doctor, the stethoscope is used to measure what's wrong, to identify, but the stethoscope will not heal you. You need something else to be healed. And effective change and positive change is possible if you know what to change. And this is an example of one of our coaches, and you will see that he shows quite a lot of negative, this is disgust, what you can see here on his face, negative facial expressions when he just talks.
I was confronted in the healthcare industry with a lot of new trends. I visited internationally more than 1,000 healthcare professionals.
No wonder this is not so attractive, because you can see wrinkles around the nose, upper lip upwards, disgust.
More than
it's not congruent.
More than 1,000 healthcare professionals. More than 1,000 healthcare professionals.
But he changed his mindset afterwards.
The three major advantages for you to work with me.
A big difference, right? Smile, congruent, confident movements.
The three major advantages for you to work with me. My 30 years experience.
So at the beginning, his body language was reflecting his mindset. He had a lot of negative thoughts about himself. And when he worked on being more confident about what he would like to express, then he became also more positive with his body language. And what we would like to teach also is about spontaneous leadership. If you imagine for a moment a tiger in a jungle, the tiger is always spontaneous and always present. If this tiger sees a gazelle, he's going to run to catch her for lunch. And this is something about body language that we cannot prepare for body language before. We discover body language in interaction. So we receive constant feedback from other people, and if we can respond emotionally intelligent to them, we become leaders. And this is about spontaneous leadership. And there's also another story. Actually, it's about me and Patryk. Once we gave a training in Brussels, and it was almost 9 a.m. Everybody was sitting and waiting for us. And suddenly I realized that my husband, he has a very elegant clothes, but he forgot his elegant shoes, and he's wearing Crocs shoes. And it was, actually, they were navy blue, not orange. But actually it was too late to start, to run to home to change the shoes, so we had to start the training. And after a pause, when we arranged Patryk to have his elegant shoes, I asked people whether they noticed anything unusual with the clothing of Patryk. And from 11 participants of this training, only one person noticed his Crocs shoes. And this person thought that it was on purpose. So, how come? Actually, this is the power of the mindset and power of confidence. Patryk was so engaging with his presentation that people didn't notice the parts that weren't congruent with his general body language. And this is what we also wish you, that you can give a presentation in Crocs shoes without anybody noticing that.
So as you saw on Ben's face before, you can predict who is going to vote for. You can predict on your client's face if they're going to go for your offer. And the best salespeople, they're really good at talking. They know exactly what to say, which is our third element. How do you know exactly what to say? Well, Oprah does that too, right? Oprah is excellent at interview. How does she does that? Well, she applies something that we teach, which is the blink conversation technique. And how it works, you see in this conversation with Lance Armstrong, she does something completely different than other people or most people do.
How was it done? You said it was smart, but it wasn't the most sophisticated. What we've read, what we've heard, is it true? Motorman dropping off EPO?
Usually you ask questions. Oprah, what she does here, she does something completely different. She's talking, she's eliciting emotions, and at the same time watching Lance's body language, how he reacts, how he responds, and what it means.
How was it done? You said it was smart, but it wasn't the most sophisticated.
And his body language, his facial expressions give her a lot more information than his verbal message. You can see here again at the same thing as on Ben's face, one of the lip corners higher. Lance feels contempt when she's speaking about it, and Oprah has more information.
How was it done? You said it was smart, but it wasn't the most sophisticated.
And that's why she can get deeper in a conversation. That's why she gets more information than all other people. That's why she can ask better questions, because she can see what somebody feels while she's talking.
Yes, and actually in this case, and in general, micro-expressions and body language is much stronger than words. And if you could focus on micro-expressions, you are going to receive true information about people. And micro-expressions are like road signs. And we would like you also to have some exercise to practice after our presentation. Maybe you can do it today with your colleagues, with your friends. And instead of asking a question, how would you like to spend this evening, we would like you to give a multiple choice. So you can start saying, maybe you would like to go to see a movie, or go for a drink, or maybe meet with friends. And watch out for micro-expressions, because you are looking for the micro-expression of happiness here that indicates a real pleasure. And this is the true answer. And the same technique you can use for salespeople, for job interviews, any business meeting, to see what is the preferred choice of the person.
Without even them noticing it.
Yes,
So-
because we cannot control body language when we listen. We can do it very well when we talk, but not when we listen. We have to focus on somebody, on listening, on controlling body language.
Lessons learned, summary. First element to increase your emotional intelligence, watch the body language code. You know today how to recognize happiness, contempt, superiority, and disgust. Mindset, we wish you that you can try giving in Croc shoes presentations, sales meeting, try it out, see what it gives. And you will know exactly what to say if you talk and watch people's body language, how they react on that.
And learning micro-expressions is like when a colorblind person immediately see colors. So it's a discovery. And we see also with our clients that when they learn how to see micro-expressions, emotions on the face, they become more understanding and they can have more authentic contacts with others.
So since body language is between 60 to 80% of our communication, this is the most crucial skill that you can use to know how somebody feels, to build a more compassionate world, to be more effective in business and to spark positive change. And we wish that let's spark positive change all together and make our children spontaneous leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.